Hello everybody, welcome back. I'm going to try and make a video about when and why and how and where is the alt season. Are we going to get one? And what some of the similarities and some of the differences are this time round. So, let's just forget about Bitcoin ETFs, Ethereum ETFs. Let's just forget about all of the fundamentals that are going on. And I'm talking about stuff that's going on around the world, geopolitics, financial issues, inflation, all this sort of stuff. Let's just forget about that and we'll just talk just about the charts. So, of course, you can leave as many comments as you like about, who says what and why, but let's just focus on charts really, because that's all I really do, to be fair. So we're going to start with the positives, the bullish case for an alt season, and that it may be beginning or may be about to begin any minute now. Okay, so again, there's two sides to every coin, right? So we're going to talk about the first signs, which is the bullish signs that we might be about to approach an actual alt season, and what it might look like. So the classic old thing is going to be a Bitcoin dominance chart, which is on a weekly. We've got drives of bearish divergence, relatively hot money flow index read. So it is approaching or it should be approaching at least a temporary peak before pulling back. And if we go back, there's a horizontal area of significance where we had this massive big rally from. This is where Bitcoin basically broke out in its last stage of the rally into the beginning of 2021 and allowed for the alt season to really just go absolutely bonkers and bananas. And remember, it was a different time back then. Everything was very different back then. So we do have an area, a horizontal area of significance, which is almost being tagged right now. And roughly it's about 58%, 58.5% dominance. That's what we're looking at. That's why and where we might get a resistance and a rejection from. And if we were to get that, any one of these moving averages, even the 10 exponential, could easily be all we get. So a 2% perhaps, maybe a 3.5%, maybe down to the 50 exponential, Golden Cross retest part 1, 7%, or maybe we go down to the 200 exponential, just short of a 10%, or maybe we go all the way down to a 200 simple moving average, which is about 16% move, and that's if it were to happen now, and then just bring you back down below 50% dominance. At that stage, you might get euphoria, you might get people just throwing in their life savings, everything just goes crazy, and you might break those supports, but until then, each area, each support should be treated as a support, and that's fine because we did that on the last time. We had this massive alt season when we spotted the double top. Altcoins were at an all-time low or a significant low, and every time we came to a support, I was guarded. I would take my altcoins, reverse back into Bitcoin in the event that we bounced. We didn't bounce, okay, party's still on. Each one of these candle bodies is a week, so we've got plenty of time. Okay, next area of significance down here. Okay, we're going down further. Okay, lovely. Continue with the alt season, until we've basically found these lows, which correspond to effectively this low over here, which is more or less where we've bottomed out. So the horizontals, moving averages, they all count for something. Look, you don't have to go all in, all out, but stagger your buys, stagger your sells, and it should be okay. So we are approaching an area right now. And again, highlighted not just by the horizontal, but the bearish divergence, and likely see another drive of bearish divergence soon. So we might be looking at an alt season beginning already, right? Find it relatively unlikely to just go by just to look at this one chart and say that's what's going to happen, but it could happen. And even if it's just a small one, you might get a small portion of outperformance of altcoins to Bitcoin. The other thing would be the total 2 and the total 3, obviously. The total 2 has recently, a couple of weeks back now, hit the 200 simple moving average after a golden cross on a weekly. So this looks like an area where a bottom could have formed, could literally have formed already. So the alt season or appropriate entry points for altcoins existed down here to maybe have caught the low. But, we've only got one driver for hidden bullish divergence. Money flow index is relatively low, but no bullish divergence on that money flow. So it's just a rough guide to say that could be it. But if it's not it, then we do have the exponential below us, which is all the way down here at $700 billion market cap for the total 2. Until we revisit this chart in a year, no one will ever know. Nobody actually knows. This is what it's all about, balancing the risk to reward. What's the chances? What is the chances of the alt season beginning? We've already determined a horizontal area of significance on the dominance chart. We've already interpreted a weekly major support on the total 2. So this is all going in the bullish favour, So the chances of an alt season are not unlikely. They're better now than they've been in a little while, but it doesn't mean it's definitely going to happen. And we're all looking at this on a on a weekly, obviously, and we're not even going to talk about stocks at the moment. We're just going to talk about crypto, altcoins, not even really Bitcoin. We're just going to focus on these things. So I just want to put it to you that there is a chance. Also, I've got a fractal that you've probably all very privy to now because I've talked about it a lot, but if this is something you're just watching this for the first time, this is your fractal. This is the fractal of the last bear market and the last bull market and my expectations of roughly where it's going to take us. And again, it's a rough guide. You can see the consolidations kind of fit to a large extent, more or less finding areas within a month or two of lows and highs and kind of even having the bounces that are maybe not to the day, but to the month roughly. Again, there's going to be differences obviously, and especially with the last bull market and bear market, which was heavily influenced by the money printing and the March crash, and then obviously the bear market being emphasized even more by inflation, and then stuff like FTX. So there's going to be differences, but roughly we're looking at the same kind of pattern. And there's your March crash, but you can see how we rallied up roughly at the same time. If there wasn't that situation that occurred, then you could have assumed that we may have rallied up and then consolidated naturally. We had a small consolidation here and a bit of a rounded bottom, almost a cup in handle really, and then up and away. So it's not the same, but it's a guide, and my expectations are that this is a projection of where we're going to end up over the next 12 months. And so sometimes you have to sort of like bite the bullet and just think, all right, I'm not going to catch the low. I'm never going to sell the top. And roughly what we're looking at is getting ready for the last stage, the last 12 months of serious bull market chaos. But until then, you're going to be second guessing yourself. Have I got the low? Have I bought the top? Nobody really knows anything, do they? That's the point. Nobody knows anything. It's just a rough guide. And your expectations, your confidence in the market. Again, forget about everything that's going on in the world. Just focus on the charts, and the charts suggest a possible bottom formed a couple of weeks ago, really. So that's the, I suppose, bullish case for crypto. Now we're going to have to flip that now and talk about the bearish case. So obviously the total 2 and the Bitcoin dominance chart heavily influenced by the Ethereum to Bitcoin price. Now the difference here is significant. So it's very different. Massively different. So we're looking at this on a weekly. So this is your sort of last bear market, 2018 into 19. We found a significant low around September 2019. So Bitcoin had already been rallying for a decent period of time. The bull market in 2019 began in spring, so March, April really. And the dominance of Bitcoin is obviously shown on this chart. And we found a significant low around here. Then, Ethereum sort of had a rally, had a pullback, had another rally into 2020, sort of kind of held to a large extent, reclaimed a Bollinger Band, carried on up, and then here we go into 2020, and then all the way back down again when Bitcoin was rallying significantly. It did like a 300% rally basically in the fourth quarter of 2020 and left all the alts behind it, and then that's when we saw the peak, wasn't it, around December 2020. And that's where Ethereum really started to pick up pace. But really what we're looking at here is a low, a high, a higher low, a higher high, a higher low, a higher high, a higher low, forgetting this over here, but more or less a higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high. And that more or less marked the absolute peak. Ethereum did go on to actually peak significantly in December, and that was basically the entire market peaked around there. So it wasn't bad. It was a series of higher highs and higher lows all the way up. And remember, the dominance chart influenced massively by Ethereum because it's the most dominant altcoin out there. But since then, we've basically been consolidating, and we continue to consolidate even now. So we've been in a bull market technically for 18 months or more really. We haven't seen any evidence of that on this Bitcoin to Ethereum chart. It's been Bitcoin has basically destroyed everything, and obviously that's normal as well to an extent, but we just wanted to reference the fact that we had a series of higher highs and higher lows throughout the previous bull market all the way up to the peak, and this bull market we've just got a series of lower highs and lower lows, and we continue even just today to make a lower low on this. So we're not even really able to navigate a place particularly of any serious interest on Ethereum where we might even find a low. When it comes to divergences, there are some on the weekly. These are the sort of things that we like to see, and there is some. So we might be looking at, again, the operative word being might be able to find a low, navigate a low. I mean, where are we now? We're sitting down here. If I was going to make an educated guess as to where the next potential bottom is going to be, it's going to be a little lower, just ever so slightly lower than where we're at right now, the bottom of the Bollinger Band stretching out to that level. And this is going to be 0.03632 sats. So a little bit further down, we can even measure that now just to give an idea. So perhaps maybe we bleed out for another 6 to 6.5% now for Ethereum before we have an attempt at making a bottom. It would be appropriate to say that there could be a response there with the bullish divergence here, but that's all we really do have. This is a strengthening trend. Death cross on weeklies continuing to go down. Let's have a look at the daily, see what's going on there. Do we have any evidence for that? A little bit of bullish divergence. Again, this is a daily, so really, on the grand scheme of things, this is a short-term time-framed chart we're looking at now on a daily. And I know that for most people that would be like a higher-term time-frame thing, but really, you're trying to navigate and spot a serious low for something. Weeklies are going to be good, especially with something like, obviously, Bitcoin and Ethereum, which have been around long enough to be able to use those weeklies appropriately. So a daily is like short-term time-frame stuff, and there is a little bit of evidence for a bottom around here, but not much. It is still just one of a giant downtrend after the death cross, rejection on the death cross, rejection on the death cross, more rejections on the death cross, and then more rejections on the death cross. So it's just a trend that's strengthening, and the only thing we've got going for us is a potential bit of bullish divergence on the way down. So back to the weekly. If this little area down here does fail, then the next area to focus on will be where these lows and these peaks all sort of converge really, and we're looking for an area much deeper, 0.02681 sats to be fair, and this would be a much deeper, more significant drop, around about 31.5%. So like I say, this is just Ethereum, but Ethereum has such an influence over the dominance and the total too that you can't ignore it really. So you might see another drop down to 6%, or you might see another drop of down 31.5%. So these things can happen, and there's, like I say, very little evidence to say that we're looking at a serious bottom on here, but each move down should give you an opportunity to make an educated guess as to where it's going to be. Again, an educated guess is not a guarantee. There is no guarantees. So if Ethereum's bleeds out even more and sees that 30% move down, this little area here where we are, this 58.5% dominance, is going to get smashed right through, and we'll see the Bitcoin dominance chart easily move up to around 63.5, 64%, which is like another 9.5% move up, where we might at this point see a more significant reaction from the dominance chart. And this would be my preference, to be fair, that we do break out from here and move up to this level, because obviously there's nothing wrong with just sitting in loads of Bitcoins. I got plenty of Bitcoins tucked away. They're not on exchanges, they're there, and they're there to be used if I feel like there's absolutely perfect opportunity to rotate some of those, even if it was just for a quick 10, 20, 30, 40, 50%, over several months. You can't complain with that sort of move. You could potentially double the amount of Bitcoin that you have if you get in at the right time. And again, trying to spot a bottom is sometimes a bit of a fool's game, really. So I would prefer it to break out from here, because it means the gains, or the rotation gains, would be a lot bigger, longer lasting, and you'd really enjoy that. But this is what I'm looking for really. Potential rejection here, and it could give you a nice move, or a breakout here which give you a much nicer move. Either way, trying to spot and call for an alt season blindly without looking and referencing dominance chart, total 2, total 3 even, and others, as well as the Ethereum chart, which I think is going to play a major role in all of this. I think it's a bit hard to actually say this is alt season time, but like I said at the beginning of the video, there is evidence for an alt season that could begin here, but it would be short-lived, it wouldn't be long-lasting, and you might see maybe 100% gains on some altcoins, and then they'd just be fed straight back into Bitcoin, whereas what you'd really want to see is a big breakout and a peak form. This might not even be the peak, to be fair, but a significant rally up where it becomes obvious to everybody that we are looking down the barrel of an alt season gun, really, and we really want to sort of take advantage of that carefully. I got caught a couple of times trying to call for an alt season around these levels, really, because it made sense that you'd see a rejection here. And we did get a rejection. It wasn't very big. It was a rejection from the 200 down to the 21. Just like we saw over here, rejection on the 200, and we saw a pullback. So, look, yeah, I got caught. I made a bit of money, but it wasn't a massive alt season. It wasn't a breakdown. Now the chart is effectively broken bullish, and so you'd look for this this trend to strengthen. And although this is a rejection area, it's still a strong trend. 52% dominance probably be an educated guess as to where a significant low would form if we did get the rejection here. So I just wanted to put it to you that it's a different market to how it was, and the Ethereum to Bitcoin charts sort of spells that out, really. Higher highs, higher lows throughout the last bull market, lower highs, lower lows throughout this bull market. So trying to interpret all of these together, you could flip it in both ways. There could be a small alt season that begins maybe even this week, or there could be a significant drop of 30% of your Satoshi value on whatever altcoin it is that you're holding. Probably more than that if that's what Ethereum looks like it could do. 31%, straight, to the next major area of support. Yeah, obviously a lot of other altcoins would feel that more dramatically. We're talking 40, 50, 60, maybe even more percent versus the Bitcoin pair. So look, let's not try and get too clever in calling for an alt season. If somebody's out there calling for an alt season, that's fine. But I don't know. They don't know. Nobody knows. You've got to be humble about all these things. You've got to try and work out what's the likelihood. And at the moment, there is some possibility of it happening, but it's not anywhere close to what I would say a guarantee. It's just there is evidence for it, enough to say that it potentially could have one. But even if we were to have one, it's not going to be anything close to 2021s or 2017s. It won't be anything close to that. It would be a small rotation, if you could even call it that, more along the lines of just an alt rally. That may take place for a period of weeks, not months. Right, I'll leave it with you there. Thanks for watching. Hope you have a nice day. Take it easy.